Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to help you scale your business, become a better leader, and push yourself out of your comfort zone into something which is going to stretch you. We really hope you enjoy these shows, and we really encourage you to like and share with your friends and network, which is only going to help us get a wider audience and improve our industry. I'm super excited to announce that in 2023, we're going to be announcing new partnerships, digital courses, some rebranding, and your opportunity to be coached by one of our many industry leaders, experts, or coaches. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscape Podcast. I'm really excited today to be joined by Paige Tisdale. Paige, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to meet with you.
Yeah, I was commenting on your background. I love that background. You said it's a preserved moss.
Yeah, we do a lot of moss art here in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's popular across the country right now, but yeah, my Zoom background is one of our preserved moss art pieces.
Cool. That's awesome. I love it. I think I should probably change my background. My background's a little bit boring here. Yeah. So Paige, for my audience, several thousand listeners here, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about your background. Where are you working? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm currently based in Portland, Oregon. I work with a company called Dennis's 7 Dees. It is a local family-owned company. We do landscaping, both residential, commercial, and then we have 5 garden centers, and we also have an interior plantscaping division as well. So we're able to cover a lot of the green industry with all of our different divisions. My personal background, I actually started out studying music. I studied opera in school and played the cello, bassoon, piano. I was very musical. And then as one thing led to another, I had tendonitis in my wrist. I got vocal nodules in my throat, so I couldn't continue with those things. And I took a break for a while and realized I had an affinity for working outdoors more than other people, more than my peers. So I started diving into that and found out I could get a degree in horticulture, which was just the coolest thing to me. I didn't realize that could be a career path, a solid career path. So I took off and I started blazing through the classes, and I used to also deal with seasonal depression pretty heavily in the wintertime, and I spent an entire winter while on campus working in the greenhouse and noticed my seasonal depression disappeared completely, and that was incredible to me, very life-changing. So ever since then, I've been really passionate about sharing the power of plants and what they can do for our mental health, let alone our physical health. They've got a lot of power behind them. And so now it's kind of like my passion, my hot button, my life's mission to preach to people what plants can do for us in our built environment and why we need greenery, not just outside, but we need greenery inside too.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And I think, yeah, I'm glad we're doing this because I think you just mentioned there about, horticulture can be a great career path. And I think that's a message that does need to get out there. And I think a lot of people are struggling, unfortunately, with some, mental challenges. So, the fact being around plants and living things, I think is, again, always a good thing for those people. So you mentioned how, you're going around, you're talking to people. I mean, what does that look like? Is that just locally? Is that nationally? What type of groups are you speaking to?
It's mostly local, of course. I speak to a lot of different networking groups, a lot of different clientele. I focus mainly on architects and designers since they're designing the interiors. I do business development for our commercial maintenance department as well as our urban plantscapes department, but it takes probably 80% of my efforts to sell, interact with, design the interiors versus putting together a commercial maintenance bid is quick and easy. So I spend a lot of time trying to work with designers, architects, GCs, just trying to be the expert on file for all these different new projects coming on board, different development buildings being put together. And I teach CEU credits to help them keep their individual certifications as well. So I'm part of Green Plants for Green Buildings, which is a nonprofit that kind of bridges the gap between interior plantscapers and the built environment professionals. And they focus a lot on collecting research and providing education and training courses for those who are interested in biophilic design and what that looks like. How can you incorporate more biophilic design in a space that not necessarily needs to be plants, but you can have biophilic design with a water feature, or with a painting that evokes nature, or even having a green carpet or blue wallpaper, you know, like those colors that remind us of nature help with the benefits of biophilic design. Without getting too nerdy, I love that biophilic design, when incorporated, can lower your pulse rate. It can increase your creativity, your productivity. It can help you reduce your stress and anxiety and depression. It really helps get that homeostasis balance that your body needs with your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system. When they're both in balance, that's when you have homeostasis, and nature helps us get there. Nature helps us de-stress. Nature helps us come back to ground zero and be able to rejuvenate our minds. So it's super important, and something that in our urban environments, we just are not getting enough of. We're in concrete jungles. We need more greenery.
No, I love that. I mean, when you mentioned about the biophilia, I think I'm saying that right. I unfortunately never heard of that before. So I was super intrigued, but I mean, it completely makes sense that, you know, you have all these stale buildings, and, you know, I think we also hear that a lot of commercial real estate buildings are struggling now with trying to get people back to work.
Exactly.
A lot of them, the leases are now being given up. Now, if you could give them some type of a makeover with using plants or some of your ideas, and just make them more inviting, less stressful, I mean, that just seems like the perfect formula.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing an increase on property managers and building owners seeking out greenery, not only, for an amenity for their tenants. It's something that the tenants are looking for, something cooler to go to. I mean, if they can stay at home and take their dog for a walk at the park, why would they come into the office, into a windowless office even? I would say over 50% of office workers don't have a window, which just, I mean, that sounds horrible. Like you're going into a jail cell to work for 8 hours a day. Like, who wants to do that? So yeah, if people are really trying to get people to come back to the office, they've got to create a place people want to be, somewhere cool to go to or collaborate with people. So we're seeing a rise on that, which is really cool.
Cool. Yeah, why are people not adopting this more? Is it just because of their lack of knowledge? Is it because of cost? Just lack of education? I mean,
I think it's a little bit of all of those things. I feel like most people that are making these budgetary decisions are very analytical, and so they're not quite understanding the emotional connection that we have to nature, which is what biophilia is. Biophilia is the term about humans' innate connection to nature. And so it's more of an emotional response. It is being scientifically measured, and there's proof that it's beneficial to us, but in order to present that to the analytical people, we've actually put together an ROI calculator on Green Plants for Green Buildings to show, like, look, this is how much money you invest in people based on salary, based on workers' comp, benefit packages, pizza parties, whatever it is. And if you have an environment where your office is not being as productive as possible, there's a thing called presenteeism, where people are at their desk, but they're not getting anything done. Maybe they're looking at their phone, or they got sidetracked on an article. And so, 5 hours goes by and maybe they sent one email, like that definitely is happening in offices today. So being able to bring in concentration and productivity levels up at least 15%, your employees are able to get more work done, and you're saving more money on that. That ROI is returning back to you at the end of the year. So this calculator, you can input how much you're paying employees, like average salary, and you can input how much you want to invest on plants per month. we charge, monthly fees for taking care of office plants. And then you can slide the bar on how much you think plants are going to return productivity. Like if you're skeptical, you can slide it down to 3%, but there's studies that show it's 12 to 15% very steadily. So you can slide the bar based on your skepticism, and then it will input like how much money your company is able to receive back at the end of the year based on
That's
that.
cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I think there's obviously a lot more influence if you own your own building and you have employees in the building. So you could probably see that ROI on that.
Right.
There's a lot of people, I don't necessarily think they calculate or think about the retention of employees. If people leave, and is that cost of turnover in terms of either training them and then they leave, or there's a whole huge cost there, which a lot of companies don't necessarily calculate correctly or even think about.
Absolutely.
But I know there's also a challenge. There's probably a disconnect between the property management company and the tenants in those buildings. I'm thinking like a company like a CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, and there's probably a disconnect there between the ROI, and they're not necessarily seeing the productivity of the company employees. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's super fair to say. And in a response to that, I would say there's a lot of these like LEED certification, fit well. These green building certifications are even incorporating greenery as points towards those certifications. So for well, you need 2% of your square footage of the building needs to have plants, 2% of your square footage. Or you can do 1% of your square footage as a living wall. So they're kind of incorporating greenery in that way. And well is focused on the health of the people inside the building. And so you need access to green space, you need access to healthy snacks, like what's in your vending machine, and are the lights, healthy on the eyes? Do you have enough natural light, and do you have greenery? So it's a small portion, but it is in there. And those certifications are highly sought after by tenants in various buildings. So I know that CBRE, JLL, Cushman Wakefield, they're all looking to get their buildings certified in some way, shape, or form to bring people back to the office, especially they did a huge revamp with version 2, I believe it was September 21, to create, people were looking for healthier places after COVID. So how can you make your building as healthy as it can be and encourage people to come back without freaking out? So they had the Well Health Safety Seal rebranded, and they made a commercial with like Lady Gaga and I think Jennifer Lopez was in there, like a handful of celebrities to kind of promote the importance of certifying your building and how safe they feel going out in public if they see that Well Health Safety Seal on a building. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but there's been quite a few smaller tenants out there who are able to, even if they're in an old building that isn't renovated, you can still get the Well Health Safety Seal. I know Planet Fitness in my area at least has been able to receive the Well Health Safety Seal on all of their gyms. So lots of little tenants are able to get that internally as well, but they're looking for it for the main building ownership as well.
Cool, I love it. Got a two-part question here. The first is, if you've got say a commercial landscape company who maybe some of the work has slowed down a little bit with construction slowing down or something, but they're maybe looking to say, hey, I need to get more involved in commercial real estate interiors. And they want to start thinking about offering this concept to the property managers. What would be the first steps for them to get better educated to then approach the property managers, come up with some type of a plan to improve those interiors?
So for a landscaping company to start doing interiors? Yeah, it's definitely an entirely different world. So I would encourage you finding an expert that knows how the commercial interiors are run. There's certain methods that are done with staging the plants. We don't direct plant anything. We don't use interior irrigation unless it's a super large atrium, so everything's hand watered. And then just selecting the right plant material, knowing your plant species and what light requirements they need is very important. Typically for the commercial environments, plants are all warranted, so you're not charging extra if you keep having to replace plants. So if you pick the wrong species for a room, like a Ficus lyrata, which is super popular and everyone wants one in every room, but those are drama queen plants and they need super high light. So if you put it in a dark room, it's gonna lose all its leaves and die on you, and you're probably gonna have to replace it 6 or 7 times a year. And they're not, the large ones aren't super cheap. So just knowing your species, knowing your light requirements is number one, and then understanding how to incorporate it into spaces, just the planter depth requirements. You know, excuse me, we don't want any drainage holes in containers, which is reverse of what they normally have for interior homes. Like a lot of people tell you, you need drainage holes, but not for commercial. That's like a big no-no. We don't want to damage any interior areas. And then living walls too, that's another whole can of worms, especially with interior irrigation as a water feature, just making sure it's installed correctly by experts. And I've been having to get involved a lot earlier with architects before they even break ground for buildings, to make sure that the architect has specified the right stub outs, the right drainage for those living walls ahead of time, because I've rocked into projects where the foundation's poured and the walls are already up, and then they bring me into the conversation and we've got to dig into the foundation or tear down a wall and redo it because they didn't have the right information before they started. Right. So yeah, just getting involved as soon as possible with developers to understand the end goal and what the client wants, so that everyone's happy in the end and that you're not taking care of a problem that could have been addressed during construction.
That makes sense. Makes sense. And then the second part of the question is, you know, from a property manager, building owner perspective, if they want to potentially explore, you know, doing some upgrades in their building, I mean, would they be going to a landscape architect? Would they be going to a local interior plant expert, a garden center, or a landscape company? Just to at least start the strategy around it and what that might look like?
Yeah, I've seen them kind of go all over the board. So I don't know the right answer to that one, but I mean, as long, I encourage going to an expert straight to the source for whatever you're working on. I mean, we've worked with landscape architects. We have a whole construction team in the company. And so oftentimes we'll get projects from an architect who's in Southern California, and he specified, you know, a list of plants that theoretically should work in our zonage, but based on our experience in our market, we know these plants are not accurate. So going back and forth, trying to select better plants, just having that trust and understanding of people who know their own area and expertise, and knowing when to let go of certain areas. There was one instance where we just were forced to install the plants even though we knew they would fail before the year was up. And now we're going back and having to replace everything because the architect plans were confirmed and there were no changes allowed. So just, I don't know, things like that. I feel like we can work better with GCs, developers, architects, planners, designers, all in. I feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping that still goes on in the industry, and a lot of secrets kept, or like, no, you can't talk to the client, you have to go through me. And I feel like if we could just open up that conversation and have everyone in a room, we could solve so many problems so much faster and just be more clear with options and, you know, where we're going to go if we choose this option. Just so you know, in 5 years, this is what's going to happen, or this is what you're going to have to deal with. Going back to living walls, I've seen so many fail because they weren't planned out far enough advance. Like the GCs only cared about the first year, and the conversation wasn't had with the client of expectations of what's going to happen down the road. And so they're just left by the wayside and they give up maintenance and they just look terrible because they're just these dead walls clinging to the side of a building, and they could look so much better, but that conversation wasn't had with that client.
Yeah. All comes down to communication.
Yeah.
Switch the direction slightly. You touched on business development, and I know you do some BD stuff for commercial maintenance. I mean, how important is it just for you to have that passion? You obviously love plants, you obviously looking after things, you like creating beautiful environments inside and outside. I mean, how does that help with your BD role?
My passion of plants towards being a BD. I think it just makes my job easier because I don't know how people sell something they're not passionate about. I mean, that's got to be really hard unless you really like people. But yeah, personally, I feel like I couldn't sell something that I'm not passionate about. So thank goodness, I love what I do. But people in this area know me as the Portland plant lady. And so I'm able to market myself, brand my own personal self as the plant person. I wear plant earrings, I wear plant pants, I have plant jackets, I have all kinds of little things. If I'm not wearing plant something, I'm wearing green. You know, I kind of, I definitely have to be branded. And because of that, when I walk into a networking event or a board meeting, everybody knows exactly who I am, even if I haven't met them or had an intimate conversation with them. I'm branded on LinkedIn, I'm branded in the market. So
that's awesome.
Really helpful. Yeah.
So how does that help when you actually come to negotiating prices? Does that help your case, do you think, just to?
I think so, just because since I'm passionate about it, I continue to educate myself and be an expert, and I like sharing this knowledge, even if it doesn't help me get that job. I want the client to be successful. And so I'll give them advice or things to look out for. And so when they encounter whatever I advise them on, they know I'm the expert. And so next time they'll definitely come to me first. And yeah, just being relied upon as the expert in the area is super helpful.
That's cool. Yeah, I think, you know, having that trust, people having that trust in you, knowing the plants, you're going to recommend the right things, and, you know, hopefully the clients like what you're seeing. So that's awesome. So just what do things look like for the plant lady over the next 1 to 3 years? Continue that messaging, that passion.
Yeah, I love sharing about biophilic design specifically. So I've been trying to do more outreach with Green Plants for Green Buildings and sharing those educational courses. As a registered trainer, I teach a course about specifying living walls. I teach a course about the economics of biophilic design. And then I teach a course about how biophilic design relates to fit well in the Living Building Challenge. So I'm able to teach these courses virtually as well. So I just taught last week to Green Building Education System had a webinar, and we had over 900 people registered for that webinar, which was kind of crazy. But I've also traveled for different conferences to teach it. Last year I spoke at the IFMA World Workplace Conference in Nashville, as well as spoke at Elevate, NALP's Elevate. And I'll be going back this year to speak about social media and branding, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I just love sharing those passions and helping people get further, and mentoring, connecting with students too across the country has been really key. I love NALP's NCLC competition every spring. I feel like that's the coolest thing our industry does, to be honest. It's setting up the next generation and connecting them for a long time. I mean, there's connections you make there that people have had for, you know, decades, 30, 40, 50 years, which is really cool to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll see you at Elevate. I'll be going there this year. So
oh, great.
I will see you there. But how do people get in touch with you, just to, you know, find out more? Can they contact you directly? Do they go through your LinkedIn? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is perfect. Paige Tisdale on LinkedIn. But we also have lots of Instagrams to follow as a company. I manage the urban_plantscapes Instagram account. You can look at some of our fun work. And then we have Dees landscaping, as well as Dees Garden Centers. would love to connect and bounce ideas off of people. There's so many career options in this biophilic design category that are sprouting up, including sustainability career paths. So I love kind of bouncing ideas off of people of where, like, there's so much interest, especially after COVID, with the houseplant trends skyrocketed, and young people are really connected to plants. And so this is an industry that needs to be supported. It's an industry that's growing at an incredible rate, and definitely something that you need to keep your eye on.
Cool. Paige, really appreciate your time today. It's been an awesome talk. I've learned a lot today. I'm sure people will be reaching out just to learn some more. So thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Take care. Hopefully that was pure, dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clinkenbeard, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe through the various podcast channels, or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or brucewilsoncompany.com and check out some more information there. Anyway, hopefully you all have a pure, dead brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.